Unit 5, Day 4, Applications of Optimization. Example 1. A storage tank on a city water tower may be a cylinder or a prism. The surface of the tank will be repeatedly painted, so it is to be as small as possible, but the tank must also be able to hold a volume of 500 meters cubed. For each shape, determine the measurements for the tank requiring the least amount of paint. Which shape should be chosen if the cost of paint is the most important factor? What other factors should be considered? So let's treat this as two separate problems, one with a cylinder and one with a prism, and we'll calculate the optimal surface area for both of them. And in the end, we'll see which has the least amount of surface area, because that is the one we'll want to pick. Let's start with our cylinder. Since we have our volume, we'll use our volume formula. We'll plug in 500 for V and solve for R. Then we'll be able to use this value of the radius to solve for the surface area. So volume of an optimal cylinder is equal to 2 pi R3. Now if we plug 500 in for V, now let's isolate for R. So we'll divide both sides by 2 pi, and we end up getting 79.58 is equal to R3. And finally, let's take the cubed root of both sides so that these will cancel out, and we're left with 4.30 meters is equal to this radius. Now we'll plug it into the surface area formula, which is equal to 6 pi r squared plug in our 4.3, and we end up with a surface area of 348.53 centimeters squared. Therefore, the measurements for this shape will be a surface area of 348.53 centimeters squared. So now let's do the same for the prism and see if its surface area is greater or smaller. Well, the volume of a prism in optimal terms is equal to S cubed. And let's plug in 500 for our volume and isolate for S. So we'll take the cubed root of both sides. These guys cancel out. And so we're left with 7.94 meters is equal to our value of S. So now let's plug this into our surface area formula. So our optimal surface area formula of a prism is equal to 6s squared. And now if we plug in our value for S that we just found, so let's plug in that 7.94, and you should get a value of 378.26 meters squared. So now let's see here. The surface area of the cylinder is less than the surface area of the prism. Therefore, a cylinder shape should be chosen if paint is the most important factor because it has less surface area to cover. You can now think about what other factors should be considered when designing this. So for example, maybe from a visual standpoint, you want a shape that looks more ideal, one more that stands out. You can make a list of your own factors. You will now complete the following handout individually.